sometimes people with dementia in the late stage, the only thing they have left is bad words. And it could be the deaconess of the church that never said a bad word, and now all of a sudden she's cussing like a sailor. And the grandchildren don't understand what that is. Have you ever been in your bedroom and decided that you wanted something to drink? You go downstairs to the kitchen, you get in the kitchen and you go, what am I in here for? And then you go back upstairs and you see the cue that sent you downstairs in the first place. Then you get your drink and everything is great. That's normal aging. What isn't normal aging is I'm in my bedroom, I want something out of the kitchen, I go to the kitchen, I don't remember what it is. So what do? I start pulling out drawers looking for the thing that I'm supposed to be in this kitchen for. Or I'm opening cabinets trying to figure out what is it that I'm here for, because I know I'm supposed to know something. I'm supposed to get something. And I end up in another bedroom looking for whatever it is that I know I'm supposed to look for. I end up in the bathroom. And along the way, I'm collecting things because I'm going to hold on to these things that might make me remember what I was in there before. That's not normal aging.
If you're in midlife and you have a parent that repeats the same story, forgets dates, gets lost driving to familiar places, you might be doing two things at once. Caring for them and then secretly thinking, is this my future too?
Mm.
In many families, we call it getting old, or they're just being forgetful. But dementia is not normal aging. Today, we're going to walk you through what is really happening and what you can do both for them and for you. Welcome to the Informed Choice podcast, where natural healing meets practical truth. I'm Annie, the Naija Goddess, and this is where we simplify holistic wellness so you can stop guessing and start healing. Today on Informed Choice, I am joined by the woman who lives at the intersection of science, soul, and what really happens in families when memory starts to slip. My guest is a dementia expert, Vernell Mitchell. She is the person families call when mom is just a little forgetful, turns into something that is not right and no one's listening. She has sat at kitchen tables, hospital bedsides, and care conferences, translating medical jargon into plain language and helping people see the human behind their diagnosis. Vernell has dedicated her career to understanding how dementia actually shows up in real life. She has walked with families through the earliest subtle changes, the most confusing behavioral shifts, and the hardest decisions about safety, driving, and long-term care. She is known for her ability to hold clinical reality and deep compassion in the same sentence, which is rare and truly needed. She teaches caregivers how to stop blaming themselves for not doing enough, how to recognize the difference between normal aging and red flags, and how to navigate a system that often dismisses Black and brown elders until the situation is already in crisis. When the room is filled with fear, she brings clarity. When the room is filled with guilt, she brings perspective. So if you've ever wondered, is this just normal forgetfulness? Or is this something more serious going on? Or are you carrying the weight of caring for someone else whose mind is changing in front of you? This conversation is for you. So very much so, welcome, Vernell, to the Informed Choice podcast. Hey, Vernell, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. You're going to help so many people. So with that, we're going to just jump into a few questions, okay?
Black people are twice as likely to develop the disease.
Hmm.
And it is from the studies that I have read because we have the highest rate of hypertension, we have the highest rate of cardiovascular disease, we have the highest rate of diabetes and other diseases. And so that makes us twice as likely to develop the disease. Once we change our diet, exercise, release a little bit of stress, I think those numbers will come down. Stop saying caregiver and say care partner. Caregiver means I'm doing something for you, then you should be appreciative of it. Care partner says, I'm going to walk this walk with you. And we're going to do this thing together.
Okay.
And we're going to make our mistakes together. And we're going to learn things together.
Okay.
So I'm trying to change my language as I'm trying to help other families change their language as well.
I like that. Okay. What do most people get wrong about dementia from the very beginning?
Okay, I would say the one thing that they get wrong is that the person that received the dementia diagnosis thinks that that's it. It's a death sentence. I'll never be able to do anything else for myself again, and that is not the case. Also, usually what happens is when they do the cognitive test and there is a reason to believe that that person has dementia, the physicians stop speaking to the person with the disease. They start speaking to the caregiver. And that's how it goes from as the disease progresses. And so you can still do so many things even once you get a dementia diagnosis, whether it's an early diagnosis, a mid stage diagnosis, and sometimes even a late stage diagnosis.
Well, let's break that down before we go to the next question. So, can you give us a clear definition of what is dementia and how, if at all, it's different from Alzheimer's?
Yes, it is. So right now, there are about over 100 different types of dementia. So you think of dementia like an umbrella term. And so you have all these different types of dementia that go up under that umbrella. There's Alzheimer's disease, there's Lewy body disease, there's vascular dementia. And so usually when the physician doesn't know what type of dementia it is, they'll say broad term dementia. Each dementia has different characteristics, so you can kind of tell by the symptoms what type of dementia it is. And so a lot of people interchange dementia and Alzheimer's. You can do that, but there are several specific types.
Okay. So then what's the difference then with the Alzheimer's then?
So Alzheimer's is the most well known. It usually gets diagnosed when you're 65 years of age or older. Now there is something called early onset Alzheimer's, which is when you get diagnosed before the age of 60. Right now, children can get early onset Alzheimer's disease, and the earliest that I have actually seen is somebody got diagnosed with early onset, and they were at the age of 20. Usually somebody with early onset Alzheimer's it can progress kind of rapidly.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to dive into that more later. Okay. If someone is watching this because they are scared, where do you want them to start in their mind?
Start in your mind thinking, I need to start making some decisions for myself. Not only financial, but how you want people to treat you. I always tell my children that if I develop the disease, if I'm struggling for a word, don't let me struggle. Give me the word so we can move on in the conversation. But some people say, no, let me try to figure it out and I'll let you know. Um, those conversations are so important. A lot of times we think, okay, I don't want to get put in a nursing home. I need you to know that. But it's more than that. It's how I want to be treated as the disease progresses.
Okay, that's good to know. How would you explain dementia to a granddaughter who is worried about her grandma in plain language?
Plain language would be, I know you see some changes in grandma. I know you're kind of worried about grandma. She doesn't act like she used to act. What I want you to know is that her brain is changing. A lot of things that grandma used to be able to do, she's not going to be able to do anymore, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't still love you. And there's other things you can say, but that's along the lines. Just reassure them. There are also a couple of books out there. Teepa Snow has some books out, Grandma and Bad Words, because sometimes people with dementia in the late stage, the only thing they have left is bad words. And it could be the deaconess of the church that never said a bad word. Now all of a sudden she's cussing like a sailor. And the grandchildren don't understand what that is. And then there's a book called, can't quite think of the title of it, but you can Google them and it talks about explaining dementia to the grandchildren or children.
Yeah, okay, excellent. All right, so what are some examples of normal memory changes that are just part of aging?
And I can talk about that because I'm in that phase. So, have you ever been in your bedroom and decided that you wanted something to drink? You go downstairs to the kitchen, you get in the kitchen and you go, what am I in here for? And then you go back upstairs and you see the cue that sent you downstairs in the first place. Then you get your drink and everything is great. That's normal aging. Have you ever had a TV and you lost the remote? You go and buy a universal remote and you spend like 2 hours trying to figure out how to get it to match to the TV, but you make it work. That's normal aging. What isn't normal aging is I'm in my bedroom. I want something out of the kitchen. I go to the kitchen. I don't remember what it is. So what do? I start pulling out drawers looking for the thing that I'm supposed to be in this kitchen for. Or I'm opening cabinets trying to figure out what is it that I'm here for? Because I know I'm supposed to know something. I'm supposed to get something. And I end up in another bedroom looking for whatever it is that I know I'm supposed to look for. I end up in the bathroom. And along the way, I'm collecting things because I'm going to hold on to these things that might make me remember when I was in there before. That's not normal aging. Or I have the TV, I get a universal remote, and I cannot follow the steps that show me how to make the TV work. That's not normal.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then, those would be the early patterns that would say I need to watch this more closely, or is it a blatant red flag?
It's not a blatant red flag. What a lot of people don't understand is that people that are beginning to suffer with the symptoms of the disease have an ability to cover. Usually, when they end up in the doctor's office, is when they can't cover anymore. And let me give you an example of what covering is. Covering is I'm talking to you and I say, "Hey, where did you used to work?" And you look at me and say, "Go on and tell them where I used to work." That means I don't remember where I used to work or what I did, but I'm not going to let anybody know that. So you go ahead on and tell them. But it will get to a point where they don't have that ability to cover anymore. And that's usually when somebody says, "Okay, something's not right. Let me take mom somewhere to see what's going on."
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So, what patterns move you from concern to we need a full evaluation? What's that trigger?
Okay. Concern is I live in Gastonia. Let's say my mother lives in Shelby. I call mom a couple of times a week. We have a great conversation. No problem. Every Wednesday, I know mom is going to go to the Hardys to meet her church ladies and have a cup of coffee and a donut. So I call mom on Wednesday evening and say, "Mom, how did your usually Wednesday night with your girls? How did that go?" And I say, "Oh, it went okay." Or the next week, I didn't go. I just didn't feel like going." Okay, that's something my mom never misses. Okay, but she just didn't feel like going. She's getting older, it's getting cold. She didn't feel like going. What goes to concern is if you call 3 or 4 weeks in a row and mom has not gone to do this thing that she always did and always loved to do, that's a concern. Or mom's driving and she has a little fender bender. Oh, that happens. She's, you know, older, sight is changing, vision is changing, but that's, let me keep an eye on that. But when mom calls you and says, "I don't know where I am," that's cause for major concern.
Okay.
And that has happened.
In a place that she should know what she is.
One story. I went to a conference and these two ladies were talking about their aunt who had the disease. She was still driving. They let her drive. They knew she had the disease, but she was still, they thought, capable of driving. She drove to the Hardys and she would come back. Hardys and come back. This particular day, she went to the Hardys, she didn't come back. Short version is they never found her or her car. What happened was her normal route to Hardys, they had road construction and she had to take a detour and she could not find her way back. That happens all the time. And it's a major concern when we think our loved one can do more than they really can do. So then you have to have the conversation about taking away the keys.
Right. That's
Yeah, that's a whole nother issue.
a tricky conversation. Okay. So, what are the subtle signs families miss long before the obvious memory problems?
I think it's like what I mentioned before. They're so used to having these short conversations. The longer the conversation, you might get mom repeating herself if you have a longer conversation. I have enrolled in our organization people who have conversations several times a week with their loved one, and then when they go to their home, mom who is meticulous about her home, meticulous about everything in her home, and you come in and there's dirty dishes in the sink and molded food in the refrigerator and there's dust all over the place. Then you realize mom's not doing as well as I thought she was doing, and then there starts to be conversations had to be had. This is a particular time of year when we see an uptick in people wanting to come and tour our facility or tour nursing homes is because the people that were out of town that are just calling mom from Texas, having those few-minute conversations come down for the big event and mom's not acting right or mom has withdrawn or mom is repeating herself or look at mom's home. We need to do something. Let's have a family conversation if that's something that can even happen to have a family conversation. Because usually, I will tell you this one statistic: once somebody gets diagnosed and they have a caregiver, 1 out of 5 families stays together. The other 4 families fall apart. So being able to even have a family conversation about what's going on is good if you can have that.
And just kind of unpacking what you just said, is there a difference or have you seen a difference between a male or a female in terms of the signs or the types of scenarios that they might run into?
Based on just my experience, I haven't really seen a difference. Um, but what I do know is that female caregivers are twice as likely to develop the disease. And I think it's because it's stress related, having to take care of somebody that has the disease. So, um, just in my own organization, the people that we had enrolled, I've seen men come in more with, I want to say, more aggression. But now we're seeing more women come in with aggression as well. Um, it used to be when I was doing this several years ago, 16 years ago, it would be 75% of the people that came in would be pleasantly confused, male or female, and 25% would have what we call behaviors. I don't like to call it behaviors. I like to say symptoms of the disease because they can't control it. Now it's the total opposite. 75% of the people that are coming in have extreme symptoms of the disease, and the 25% are pleasantly confused. So that's what we're dealing with now. And not only that, I know I'm probably jumping ahead, but I'll just get on a roll. But not only that, people with mental illness are coming in needing assistance with extreme depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, and then you add some form of dementia, and you can have more than one type of dementia at a time. So they could have Lewy body vascular dementia and Alzheimer's with all of those other mental illnesses. Then you have to talk about medications, which is something totally different.
With the 3 different types of dementia you just mentioned, what are the differences?
So Lewy body, Lewy body it's more Parkinson's related. It has more hallucinations with it. One of the main characteristics of Lewy body disease is hallucinations. So you don't have as many hallucinations with somebody that has Alzheimer's. So with hallucinations, usually when I'm talking to a family and one of the questions I ask them, does the person have hallucinations? And they say yes. My next question is, what do they see? Is it auditory or visual? And if it's visual, what do they see? And if they say, well, they usually see like animals or little kids around, that's my cue that it would more likely be Lewy body because that's one of the main characteristics. They hallucinate children and animals. Vascular dementia usually comes when somebody has had a stroke. It's a constricting of the vessels. It damages a part of the brain, and I can't remember what part of the brain it is, but it damages a part of the brain where you don't have the ability to care about how you look or taking a bath or smelling good. You just don't care. And then the family thinks you're being lazy. And it's not that you're being lazy, it's that that part of your brain is damaged. And normally people with vascular dementia can function a little bit longer. And then you have the Alzheimer's and the early onset. And then there's Parkinson's disease is a form of dementia. And then there's so many more. Have you ever heard of Crutchfield-Jakob disease?
I've seen it, yes. Yeah.
That's mad cow disease.
Yep.
That's what that is.
Yep.
So, characteristics, but, they're changing now based on, I believe, diet.
So we're gonna touch on that.
Yeah.
We're gonna definitely touch on that. Okay, what do the numbers show about dementia risk in Black communities or brown communities?
Okay, so I am usually get involved with the families after the diagnosis. But what the research that I have seen is that they physicians don't pay attention to us when we bring someone in with the disease and say we think something's going on. But the biggest factor is that we as Black people wait until the symptoms are severe before we take somebody somewhere because 55% of African Americans think that those symptoms are normal aging. Oh, that's just grandma being senile. Have the word senile? And so we wait till grandma starts slapping us because she doesn't want to take a bath and we're trying to make her take a bath. And so by the time we get in there, there's severe symptoms and it can be misconstrued as bipolar or that's how you get the misdiagnosis. There are lots of times too that some physicians will just throw a dementia diagnosis on you when that's not really what the issue could be.
Okay.
I have actually had phone conversations with a person that was wanting to get their father enrolled, and he was exhibiting all the signs of severe dementia, but he had been on these medications for so long. So before we went to the home visit, she said, he has a doctor's appointment. Let me take him there first. Well, this particular doctor took him off of a lot of medications. So I hadn't heard from her in a couple of weeks. So I called her back and she said, Dad's back to normal. He's been off these medications and he is functioning and now he's capable of living on his own, so I think we're okay. So medications play a big part, big part.
Definitely will touch on that too. Okay, yeah. All right. Well, from your experience, what role does stress, discrimination, and chronic health conditions play?
Okay, let's just talk about stress. Yeah. Okay, in this
The
day,
silent killer.
the silent killer. So in this day and time, it's very hard to have a single family household that doesn't have to have two people working.
Yeah.
So when you're working all the time, you don't have time to cook a good meal.
Mm.
Figure out the ingredients. What do? You go to McDonald's, you go to Burger King, you go to Bojangles. No offense to any of those places, but that's what you do, and that's not the healthiest thing for you. We don't do gardens like we used to do. We don't have the time, and our bodies are in a constant state of stress, which that is not how our bodies are supposed to function. You're supposed to be in a state of stress, fight or flight, get out of that situation, and calm down. But I was just talking to my supervisor the other day that has one of those little ring things on, and over the holidays, it didn't calculate stress. As soon as he got back to work, it peaked. All he did was walk into the job and it peaked. And so our bodies are not meant to have cortisol in our brains consistently all day long, and that plays a factor in it as well.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as this, what was this discrimination?
Yeah, and chronic health conditions.
Okay, so Black people are twice as likely to develop the disease.
Hmm.
And it is from the studies that I have read because we have the highest rate of hypertension, we have the highest rate of cardiovascular disease, we have the highest rate of diabetes and other diseases. And so that makes us twice as likely to develop the disease. Once we change our diet, exercise, release a little bit of stress, I think those numbers will come down.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Yeah, we definitely gonna diving down on the cooking segment. How often do you see symptoms dismissed or minimized when the patient is of color?
Again, I usually see it after the diagnosis, but it's us that dismiss it. Yes, the physicians dismiss it, but we dismiss it too. A lot of times we are in denial.
We, as in the family and or the caregiver.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want to deal with it because we don't know what we're going to do. So we just write it off until something happens.
Just keep kicking the can down the road.
Keep kicking the can down the road. And usually when I'm in a home and talking to the family, I say, because I want to know how long has this person had the diagnosis? And what was the event that said something's not right? I have heard things from mom just keeps repeating herself back to back to back to back. She can't remember anything. She left a pot on the stove, which was how I got introduced to Alzheimer's disease. Or, um, mom won't take a bath, or mom got lost, and you saw the signs before, but you didn't want to do anything about it or couldn't do anything about it. A lot of times, families don't want to have that mother or father come live with them. I have supported many families where there's been an estranged relationship and they're only caring for that person out of duty. Actually, I'm dealing with that right now. Somebody's caring for somebody out of duty and is bouncing them from place to place and really doesn't know what to do with them, but they're trying to honor their parent. So it's a deep struggle in our families. We as African Americans, as Black people, want to keep our people at home. So I can't tell you how many families have a mother will have 10 children and there's one caregiver, and everybody else doesn't have anything to do with them until it's time to put them in a nursing home. Then everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, don't put them in there.
Don't put them in there. You're just not wanting to take care of them, and this person has been taking care of them all the time with no help from all of the other siblings. So we see that a lot.
So it's definitely less on the physician side and more on the family side.
I would say for us, yes, it is on the physician side, and that's why we have to really work on getting more diverse healthcare providers.
And when you say on the physician side, what do we see on the physician side?
They dismiss they dismiss the symptoms. Um, a lot of times we'll go into the doctor's office and it's not a red, but the doctor has 7 to 12 minutes to speak to the patient. And once those 12 minutes are up, they're shooting them out the door, giving them a prescription, and they're on to the next. What we have to do
So
is
it's not necessarily racially motivated, just how the whole healthcare system works.
it's both.
Oh, okay.
Is how a healthcare system is, and it is, I believe, a little racially motivated too, because they have preconceived notions of how we are, how we function as a family. It's just like going in and asking for pain meds. A Caucasian person will get pain, will complain about a pain and get a pain med, but they don't want to give us pain meds because we're medication seeking. So yes, there is some discrimination there too, but I want to speak to the families first. You can go in and advocate for yourself. There's the things that you can do, but you got to be prepared when you go into that doctor's office for whatever the physician may do.
And we have some tools that we can maybe link below, like questions they can ask or things like that. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that'd be fantastic. What can families do if they feel a doctor is not taking their certain concerns seriously? So you just said there's some tools. So that means there's like a list of questions that we should know before we go in. And will we discuss that with the person we're concerned about, or would it just be amongst the caregiver or the next of kin, or how does that work?
Okay. Absolutely, there are some things that you can do. I would say it really depends on the stage that the person that is that is living with the disease is in. What we do on our home visits is I will go along with the case manager. They talk about the finances and getting the person enrolled in the program while I take the person in and distract them, because once they start hearing you talk about them, because they have a disease that enables them to receive information and give out information. It doesn't mean that they're stupid. It doesn't mean that they can't make decisions for themselves. It just means they have difficulty understanding. So when they hear rapid fire, you calling their name, talking about their situation, their illness, their first thought, oh Lord, there goes my independence. They're going to put me in a nursing home, and two things happen. They either cry or they get angry. And so it would depend. If it's somebody in an early stage and you're talking to them, say, Mom, I'm really concerned. Let's go to the doctor. So the number one thing you can do is be prepared. Just don't say, oh, something's wrong. Let's go to the doctor. And then you don't know what's going on. Be prepared. Write a list of questions down that you want to ask. Take somebody with you. Just because you are the support person for your parent or loved one doesn't mean that you can't have somebody be the support for you.
Right.
Even though you have a list of questions that you want to ask, this other support person may be somebody that can think of something that you didn't think of based on what you hear from the physician.
Right.
The other thing is, if you feel like that physician is not taking your concerns seriously, make them slow down. And you can ask them to add your concerns to the medical record. A lot of times that will make them, well, let me revisit it, because they didn't want that on the medical record.
Okay.
And second, if you decide to go to another physician or get a second opinion, that will be on that note.
Okay. Okay. That's good information.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's really good information. Okay. All right. So let's talk about decades before the diagnosis. What are the most important modifiable factors for people in their 30s, 40s, 50s that they can work on?
diet.
Hmm. You don't say.
And I'm not just saying that. Diet is key, because what we put in our mouths usually leads to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension. So if you can modify those things in the beginning, then you're off to a great start.
That's why it's type 3 diabetes.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Type 3 diabetes is unofficial, but it is usually based on insulin deficient
Insulin
resistance.
resistance.
Some of the studies that I've read in the past talked about it's very high in people that have diabetes that is uncontrolled. Either they are not taking the medications like they should or didn't know they have diabetes in the first place. So yes.
And that's why with the type 3 diabetes, as we call it, there's unofficially type 3 diabetes is dementia related, and then type 4 diabetes is PCOS related. So all this unexplained infertility and all that. And insulin resistance is something that happens in the body for decades before it turns into diabetes. And so wherever it's most prevalent, if you have more of the ovaries and that's how they have the type 4, the PCOS type of diabetes. But in the brain health, that's that type 3 diabetes. So diet is absolutely important on that, and managing that, because most people in the United States have some form of insulin resistance and have no idea, it's not diagnosed, because they're like, oh, my A1C is fine. It's still a little too high. You're still in the insulin resistant range. Get it below 5.
Yeah.
5 and below.
For you. I learned that for you.
5 and below.
Mhm.
Okay. If you're thinking you're good at 5.6, 5.8, you're not. Okay. You need to bring it down. Bring it down. So yeah.
And then you add all of that with stress, no exercise, working too much, not taking time for yourself, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And then all of a sudden you get that. So you're saying in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, to prevent that as a lifestyle measure, focus on the lifestyle factors that we always talk about.
Lifestyle changes.
Yes. It's really critical, because it's like, it seems cliche to say, oh yeah, diet and exercise, but no, literally diet and exercise.
Mhm.
Okay. And reducing stress.
And reducing stress.
Yeah, that stress is a killer.
It's a silent killer.
It is. And now doing a quick aside, because I've been playing with insulin resistance. So as a person that used to I reversed my PCOS, okay? And I was diabetic and all that. So now my A1C is 4.9. So I'm metabolically healthy. But I got a continuous glucose monitor to try to just see how foods that are supposed to be low on the glycemic index, how it impacts my body. What I learned was that I could eat this particular food when I feel fine, that's low on glycemic index and no spiking or anything like that. But when stress was introduced, my fasting glucose, it was crazy. Like my normal fasting glucose was like around 87, 80, 85, 87. Then when I was stressed, like overnight, it was like 110. And I was just like, nothing's changed. I was still exercising, still completely hydrated, still eating whole food, plant-based. And then my body's holding on to weight. And then all that from my my glucose, like everything it's just crazy. So it is so important, that stress, because it is really a silent killer. And I remember discussing with my husband, like, I didn't even feel that stress. I knew I was bothered, but I wouldn't have said I was stressed out, but my body felt it.
But that's the silent part, because
Yes.
we convince ourselves that we're handling everything because we haven't passed out or had a stroke,
Yeah.
or had a headache. We think we're handling it, and our bodies are telling us that we're not handling it.
Right.
But we're so used to doing it, it becomes habit, and we become numb to it, desensitized.
You're so right. And I was very stressed, because there's my sister, for you all who are aware, when she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and her struggles with that, it has been very, very, very hard and stressful on me. And I I gained weight, and I was like, I even went on a 3-day water fast and gained 2 pounds from stress. That's not right. I did a week of a caloric deficit. I still worked out, hydrated, gained 6 pounds. Went on a 3-day water fast, gained 2 pounds. I said, this stress really is a killer.
It's really a killer.
It's really a killer. If I didn't have that monitor to see that, I would have been like, what is going on? I'm a board certified nutritionist. I know what to do. And it's like, stress is something serious. And so, and there's different bikers. You have other people that will just lose all sorts of weight, right? Very
That's
quickly.
not good either.
It's not good. It's not good. And then there's people that can just gain weight from literally water fasting. Like, you have all in between based on where you are metabolically. But yeah, so that stress is something it's not to play. Cause I'm not even at the point where I actually felt the stress. I was like, okay, I'm bothered, but I'm good. But no,
You're not good.
I wasn't good.
No.
My body wasn't good.
And caregivers are under so much stress.
Yes.
I have seen multiple times where a caregiver spends all their time caring for that person that is living with the disease. And then when that person passes away, their health deteriorates and they die
Rapidly.
rapidly. We just had a participant who is still in our program, but their husband has passed.
Oh gosh.
And he had, because I don't want to give away, because anybody would know what I'm talking about, but she's still in the program, and he's gone. And so when he would come to the support groups and he'd say, "Well, I say, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm handling it." "Are you sure you're handling it?" "Well, she does better with you all than she does with me." "Well, then you're not handling it, because you're already telling me you're grief stricken, because she's kissing us and hugging us and having conversation with us, but by the time she gets home with you, she doesn't have any more energy to hold herself and cover,
Mhm.
and so you get what's left.
Mhm.
And this is your wife for 40 years, and you don't want what's left. You want what
Mm.
we're getting."
Right.
So,
They're getting the scraps.
a lot of times a caregiver will pass before the person with the disease, because if they're physically fit, they can live 10, 15 years with the disease. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Okay, well, if someone in midlife has a strong family history and is scared, what are the first three levers that actually matter?
Um, well, there is a familial piece to this disease. If you have a gene that is APOE4, you have an increased risk of developing the disease.
Is that something that gets screened for?
Yes, you can get screened for it. Um, I've done a little bit of research on the medications, but I actually know of a family that has, like, I want to say it was 10 children, and every one of the 10 children had the disease. And we took care of two of the people in our organization. All 10 siblings, male and female, ended up with the disease. And so I know some of the grandchildren, and so I'm watching them change. They're always in the gym. They're always working out there. They are making those lifestyle changes ahead, and so I'm curious to see if this will continue with them. I don't even
Wow.
answer the question, but
Well, you did. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay. How do you think about brain health through the lens of heart health, sleep, and blood sugar?
I was always told, and you'll probably be able to tell me if it's true, but I was always told that if you get good sleep, sleeping is the time that the body starts to repair itself.
Absolutely.
So if you're not sleeping well, then you are not getting the repairing of your cells and body like you should. So it's just going to increase your risk to develop the disease.
Absolutely.
I don't sleep well. I'm worried. So I'm working on trying to figure out how to get better sleep. I'm cutting the TV off. I'm, cooling my room and keeping it dark and all the things that they say do. And I'm telling you, all this Thanksgiving holiday, all I did was sleep, because I was not in the same environment. I didn't have the same stresses. I didn't have to worry about anybody but me. And I slept and slept and slept and slept. I had no insomnia, which I normally have. So now that I'm back off vacation, I've had the first 3 days that I went to work and didn't think about retirement. So I'm still living the life.
Well, we can touch on that for, just a bit. Sleep is foundational. I know you and I've talked about that. It's foundational, and sleep is when the body repairs itself. So if you have little cancer cells forming and it wants to expel that, all that's happening. So if you're eating too close to bed, drinking too close to bed, you need that 2 or 3 hour gap before of space before you go to bed, so you can have that proper sleep. You want to, yes, eliminate blue light, eliminate TVs and screens at least an hour before bed, 30 minutes before bed, like switch to reading a book or use candlelight. You want to do those things, and you really want to quiet your mind. There's lots of things you can do to begin to quiet your mind to help you drift off. I wouldn't necessarily say supplement with melatonin, because there's a lot of downsides to that. So it's case specific. So work with your healthcare professional on that, or herbalist. But there are a lot of things you can. There's a lot of teas you can do, or some non-dairy milks that you can drink. That will just help everything. It's like tart cherry juice. It has natural melatonin in it that can help aid you to sleep. Spraying yourself with magnesium spray, the Naija Goddess brand, um, or drinking a magnesium glycinate supplement. All those things will help to get your body from fight or flight mode, if you're there, to rest and digest. And if you're struggling with sleep and you're not getting at least that, a good 7 quality hours of sleep, you want to make that your priority. Because if you're doing everything else right, if you're eating right, you're exercising, you're doing all the things, and then you don't have quality sleep, it's almost all for naught.
It's all for naught.
So that is imperative. It's imperative. So if your sleep is not good or your sleep can be improved, make that your primary focus.
I've been doing some research on the white noise, brown noise, and
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I'm about to try those and see how that works.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay, let me know, Vernell, 'cause I love you now. Okay. Yeah, so that was through the heart health, sleep, blood sugar. We already talked about blood sugar and heart health, so that we just touched on sleep now. So what can current dementia medications realistically do, and what can they not do from your experience?
Okay, so there are drugs out there now that really just help with the symptoms of the disease. That's things like Aricept, Namenda. But the thing is, you have to get those drugs in the early stages. If you're in the mid to late stages, they really don't work. And again, if you're agitated, they might make you a little less agitated. And they may work. It depends on where those plaques and tangles are in the brain. Sometimes the medication will work one day and then it won't work the next. I have actually seen people take a drug. I can't think of the name of the drug that keeps you sleep.
Mm,
Um,
there's several of.
I, I'll think of it in a minute. Um, and one day on Monday it works, and then the person with dementia is up 72 hours still taking a drug because the nerve endings, your dendrites, that little space that sends a signal to a signal that
Yeah.
could be a plaque or a tangle there, and so you can't get the signal. The medication doesn't work right. So there are two new drugs out on the market that have been approved by the FDA that are supposed to actually slow down the progression of the disease. They've been on the market and approved for about a year now. One is called Kinsulna, and the other one is called, I have it on the paper over there. I have to figure it out.
That's okay.
They are weekly, every 2 week infusions, and one is every 4 week infusion. And they actually attack the amyloid plaques in your brain and remove them. They don't remove them all, but they remove them, and you can sometimes stop taking the medications for a certain amount of time, but it does not stop the disease. It slows down the progression. There are a lot of side effects to those, headaches. If you have that APOE4 gene, they recommend that you really talk to your physician about whether you should take that medication or not. And this is why one of my favorite lectures that I do is knowing the 10 signs. Knowing what's normal aging and knowing what's not normal aging so you can go get an early diagnosis. So if you choose to take these medications, they will actually do you some good. Uh, Leqembi, that is a medication that you take every 4 weeks. It's about $24,000 annually. It is covered by Medicaid and Medicare. It's about $2,000 a month. I'm sorry, you take that every 2 weeks. And then the other,
$2,000 a month out of pocket?
Medicaid will pay for it. I
Okay.
think it's Medicaid Part A. Excuse me, Medicare Part B.
Okay.
Then the other one is Consulna. Um, It is also an infusion. It's given once a month. Now, it's about $32,000 to $34,000 a year, which is about $2,600 a month. It is also covered by Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay.
Now, Leqembi has more side effects, and they think because it works quicker and more rapidly, so your side effects come up more often. Um, but yeah, those are the two that are out. I I'd have to see more studies to see if it's really working, but when you go on these websites, they show videos of people that are taking it, and they say they can see a difference. They're able to live independently a whole lot longer with these drugs, but getting the early diagnosis is key.
That's the key.
That's the key to any of the drugs that you may decide that you want to take. Any of them, whether they help you with the symptoms or help you with slowing down the disease, early detection is the key.
That's what I put in. This is a educational purposes only. Be sure to consult with your healthcare team. And on the Informed Choice podcast, we do advocate for natural healing. We're not anti-pharmacology. We're saying you don't go to pharmaceuticals first. So you want to focus on all the lifestyle prevention methods that we spoke of earlier. But if you, but like she said, focus on getting that early diagnosis based on you said the 10 signs of life.
10 signs of knowing the early 10 signs of Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay. The early 10 signs of Alzheimer's. Okay. Do you know those, or is that something you want to speak to, or
Um,
we don't have to go into all that right
okay.
now? Yeah, we can.
This is what you can do. You can reach out to me, and I be more than happy to come out to your organization and give you a information session about those 10 signs.
Okay. Yeah, I know that can probably take you down a whole rabbit hole.
It really will.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Where do you see the biggest problems that with over medication or the wrong kinds of medication worsening confusion?
Um, I see it a lot with people who have a mental illness diagnosis because the same drugs that they give you for a mental illness don't work with the drugs that they give you for Alzheimer's.
So, like schizophrenia and a
And dementia might
okay,
not work well together.
okay.
And so it can cause, I have seen, this is unofficial.
It's anecdotals. Okay.
So in my experience, they will, a physician will prescribe Ativan
Okay.
to help with agitation. And you give the person Ativan and they are amped up to 1,000.
Yeah.
And so they have to switch it to something else. And where I work now, the physicians there, they kind of listen to us and we say, look, the Ativan has amping them up. So is there anything else that we can switch to? But, physicians sometimes don't listen. And you have to fight and you have to be relentless. That is one thing you have to also do is be relentless. Don't let that physician tell you something that you know is not true.
Mhm.
Be relentless and state your case and fight, fight, fight.
Right, because as I always have to remind people, the doctors work for you. Okay, there are not some guys saying, and as a person who's going to be a doctor very, very soon, I'm at the service of the client to give them the best result. And if I can't do that, then I will refer them out. But if your doctor won't listen to you, or makes you feel like you can't ask a question, or if you say this is a concern I have and I want to be taken off of something, and they don't oblige, then you need to find another uh, healthcare person on your team.
Hmm.
You need to change them out because they work for you, okay?
You want to find somebody that's on your team, not off your team.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, families are bombarded with brain boosters online. I'm sure you've seen that.
Mhm.
From your perspective, how should they evaluate supplement claims?
So, as Miss Annie said, you should always talk to your physician. But I have not seen any studies that actually prove that these brain boosters actually work. So, rather than taking something that you don't need to take that may not work, focus on lifestyle changes, those diets, the exercise, the reducing the stress. I think that would be more beneficial than taking something that so far has not been proven to actually make a difference, unless you just believe that it makes a difference and you feel better, and that's something totally different. But there's no research out there to say that they actually do what they're stating that they can do.
And just for clarity, we're talking about like the things you find like a gas station, those things. It's like stuff that's been proven, like a creatine or certain mushrooms where they have brain health benefits. Those have been studied. But the things you see in a grocery store, like really in those convenience stores late at night, and says this will give you brain stimulation. That's what we're really referring to. And, take that with a grain of salt.
Did research on a supplement, and they have, I don't know how to pronounce that word, Neriva and
Prevagen.
Prevagen, which is a coffee fruit extract. Like, how's that gonna help with? I don't. Yeah. Well, anyway, let me not get on the soapbox.
I get it. I get it. Okay. What are the unspoken emotional realities caregivers are facing that you wish were acknowledged more?
Really, how hard it is to care for somebody with the disease, and it is a vicious cycle. So part of what I do is teach people how to redirect somebody that's having a symptom of the disease. It could be approach. If you tell me I want to go drive my car, where are my keys? And I say, you haven't driven in forever. I took your cars away. Don't you remember that? You're gonna get upset because in your mind, in your reality, you're still driving and you want your car, right? So my redirection tip would be to say, oh, I don't know where those keys are. Why don't we look for them together? What kind of car did you have again? And you tell me, and I start to talk about the color of the car, or I start to ask you, well, what did you like about driving that car? Wasn't that your favorite car? And before you know it, you have redirected them to a positive, and you have validated their feelings, because somebody with dementia has the same feelings that we have. We just want to be validated and we want to be heard. So when you tell me what I'm telling you is not correct, then I'm going to have a problem. So what happens is, this is not something that you can do just off gate. This is a skill that has to be developed. So what happens is, you tell me you want the keys. I tell you you don't have keys because you don't have a car anymore. You get upset. I know, "Darn, Vernell told me I should redirect it. I should have said this." Then you feel guilty. And then the person has a behavior again, and then you don't do it right again, then you feel guilty, and then you try to do it right, and it's just this vicious cycle, and it's grief over grief over grief after seeing the person that you love not the same person from minute to minute, hour to hour, or day to day. And that's heavy weight that we don't
Yes.
wanna acknowledge because we think we're supposed to do it all. So, a lot of times when I'm supporting people and they're telling me what mom is doing, I'll let them finish. I give them whatever tips I may have, and I say, "Well, how are you doing?" And that's when the tears come, because nobody asks them how they're doing. And that's why I'm an advocate of the support group as well. The support group is a safe place where you can come and say, "Mama is getting on my nerves, and I don't know what to do." And you get it out, and then you go back and you take care of your mom. It's a way to relieve some stress. But what I'm learning is to stop saying caregiver and say care partner. Caregiver means I'm doing something for you, then you should be appreciative of it. Care partner says, I'm going to walk this walk with you, and we're going to do this thing together.
Okay.
And we're going to make our mistakes together, and we're going to learn things together. So I'm trying to change my language as I'm trying to help other families change their language as well.
I like that. Okay, that makes sense. All right. What daily choices make the biggest difference for the person with dementia and for the care partner's sanity?
You're going to have to let go of your social norms.
Hmm.
So if I want to take mom, who was always dressed to the nines, to Walmart, and instead of wearing a dress with the nice flats and the stockings and, the earrings and the necklace and everything is perfect, she decides she wants to wear two socks that don't match. She wants to wear one earring, and the shirt is too tight, or the short is too big. The shirt is too big. And I go, oh, mama would never want to be seen like that. Well, mama's changing. And what makes mama happy may be different from what made her happy before. And so I have to say, what do I want? Do I want to fight with mom and have her look good? Or do I want to have a good outing with mom and she might not look like she used to look, and be okay with that? I learned that from somebody from the Alzheimer's Association. His dad had Lewy body and Alzheimer's at the same time. And his dad used to be pristine, had the belt, shirt tucked in, and he used to fight with his dad to put on the clothes that he knew his dad would want to wear before they went on the outing. And he finally got it. He said, I just want to have some time with my dad before my dad's not there. And so sometimes they would go to Walmart, and his dad had on two different shoes or socks. And he said, I don't care what people think. I'm having a good moment with my dad. And the Alzheimer's Association actually has these little cards that say, please be patient with my loved one. They are living with Alzheimer's. And you can take the card, and if you see somebody looking at you crazy, you just hand them the card and you go on about your business. That way, you feel okay that they're not going to call adult protective services on you, and the person understands, oh, this is what's going on, and then the person that is living with the disease doesn't have their dignity taken away.
I can see that being very, very difficult.
Very difficult, because we're used to things being the way they are, and with dementia, it is you somebody it's changing from minute to minute. I may have a schedule of activities and programming that I'm going to do with some participants, and I go in with a plan, and they come in not having a good night. I might not be able to play bingo with them, or I might not be able to take them outside. They may just want me. A lot of people think I'm just sitting here with them. I'm just sitting beside them. But I have sat beside people that didn't want to talk. They just wanted somebody near. Just like I might want to be in the room with you, but I don't really want to talk, but I don't want you to go anywhere. So the same feelings that we have with a healthy brain, they have with a brain that is changing. So you just have to remember that they experience the same feelings. They're angry, they're happy, they're upset, they're confused, they're scared. All of those emotions that we go through, they still have. They just have a different way of communicating it to us. So when they have a symptom of the disease, it's usually a way for them to try to tell us something. They are needing something. They are wanting something. But we have to be the detective and try to figure out what that is.
That sounds like that requires a lot of attention, a lot of time,
And patience.
and patience. Yeah.
Yes. So a lot of times I get the question, for somebody is struggling, I usually get it in the support group. Well, when do I know is the time for me to put my parent or whoever in a home? Now, I've done a lot of looking at Teepa Snow.
Now, who's Teepa Snow for the listeners?
So Teepa Snow's original background is she's an OT, but she has spent her life.
Occupational therapist?
Yes, occupational therapist, and she has spent her life dealing with people with dementia, and she studies it, and I just call her the guru. You can go on YouTube and say Teepa Snow difficulty in the bathroom, and a 2 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute video will come up to show you some tips that you can use to help with bathing, help with dressing, help with toileting, whatever it is. And she always talks about, just dealing with that person's emotions, and being able to understand that this person is trying to communicate this particular thing to you. Um, it's just it's just very hard to manage your stress level and manage what that person is doing at the same time. And it's just a lot for the caregiver. And it's, a lot of times they can't talk to family members because they just don't understand. And so that's another reason why I'm a proponent of the support groups. It's a lot to deal with. So I don't even know if I answered the question, but I probably got off on a tangent.
You did. It's okay. It was a good one. Okay. Is there a way to think about, quote unquote, doing enough that gives care partners some peace?
I don't. I think it really depends on the person and their personality whether they feel like they have peace. Um, I know some caregivers that go too far sometimes, especially when the
What does
person.
too far mean?
So as the disease progresses, your vision changes, a lot of things change. So I'll get families that call me and say, look, hey, mom, she's not eating like she used to eat. She doesn't have the same kind of appetite. And the first thing I say is, well, what are you feeding them? What are you giving them to eat? And what kind of plate is it on? This is an example of a vision change. So if I have a white plate and I have green beans, fried chicken, and rice, and mama only eats the green beans and the chicken, that means she can't see the rice. Because what happens to your vision is your depth perception changes. And so you can't distinguish the white rice from the white plate. Now you take a solid red plate, put all of those same things on it, and there is a over 50% chance that mama's going to eat all things on the plate because she can see it. You see somebody doing this, trying to grab a drink or a glass, is because they can't judge the distance anymore. So those are some of the types of things that are changing. Go back to the question.
Oh, is there a way to think about doing enough that gives caregivers peace?
So when those changes start to happen as the disease progresses, you want to tell a story. When you get to the point where you really don't know that you're in this world, because that can happen when you get down to the third stage, right? Late stages. You have to be reminded to eat. Sometimes you have to be clue to swallow. You can do like this, and because they'll pack food in their mouth, and you can do like this, and it will cue the body automatically to swallow. So when those things start to happen, you may say, as my caregiver or care partner, normally caregiver, oh, I need to take mama to the dentist because she hasn't been to the dentist in a long time. Mama is confined to a wheelchair. She doesn't speak anymore. And you're going to try to get her in a dental chair and get that dentist to hold her mouth open. And usually what's going to happen when you start to put something in that person's mouth, they don't know what you're doing. They can't understand what you're doing like a normal person with a healthy brain does. Or you see that mom can't read anymore. It may not be because she can't see. It may be because she doesn't understand the word anymore. But you want to take her to the eye doctor and have her put her chin there, and they squirt that blast of air in her eyes and all the things that come along with the eye exam, because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. She needs to have an annual physical. She needs to go to the dentist. She needs to go to the optometrist. That's what I'm doing. Sometimes that's too much. But I'm doing it because I know that this is what I would normally do if mama was healthy. So I'm going to do it no matter what. That can be too much. Sometimes you have to make a decision. Okay, well, mama has some issues with her teeth, but she doesn't look like she's in pain, because you have to look at body language, because the way we communicate is 55% of how we communicate is body language. 38% is tone of voice, and the rest is verbal. So it's not really what comes out of our mouths. It's how we react to things. It's our facial expression. I can look at any and go, I can look at you and go, mm, that makeup is nice. My body language says something totally different than what came out of my mouth. And so when it gets to the point where they're having even more difficulty understanding communication, they look at your body language. So you have to say, well, mama doesn't seem like she's having any difficulty chewing. She's still eating pretty well. Let's cancel that dental appointment. And when you resolve yourself that I'm going to be a care partner and progress with the disease with her, it comes a little more easier to be able to release these things that we think we have to do and do too much, so to speak.
That's powerful information. So then how does a care partner have the indication that they're doing enough? Like, and because they might feel like they're not doing enough if they say, okay, I'm gonna cancel the eye appointment, I'm gonna cancel the dental appointment. They might feel like they're neglecting that person. So how do they know that they're doing what they're supposed to do, on track, they're doing enough?
They can reach out to somebody for support. They can reach out to their physician, but look at the relationship that they have with that loved one. Is that loved one happy? Is that loved one, acting, communicating something in a way that makes me think I need to do more? The same way that they're looking at our body language, we're going to have to look at theirs. So you're going to have to become a detective. That's not what you want to hear, but that's the long and the short of it. Because when I do have the ability to tell you what's going on, you're going to have to figure it out. I used to work in assisted living, and we had this lady that would come down the hall. I tell this story all the time. She would come down the hall, clicking off lights, not repeating herself, saying, y'all are running up my light bill. She could communicate everything but that she was thirsty. And she would come down that hall and she was cussing, deaconess of the church, just cussing and carrying on. And I have these criteria that I go down to determine what they're trying to communicate. And usually it's something on that list. And I got down to everything except for thirsty. So I said, Miss So and so, are you thirsty? She said, I sure am. I went and got her some water. She cussed me out because she didn't want water, but she didn't say, I don't want water. So I went and got her some tea. Now, mind you, all this whole time she's cussing and fussing and yelling and screaming. She drinks the water and puts her hands on me and said, I knew you loved me. And I'm like, yes, yes, Miss So and so, I do love you. She took her drink and she went on down the hall to her room. So I told the staff, when she comes down the hall screaming and fussing and yelling, just give her some tea. She'll be fine. But I had to figure that out.
Okay.
So you're going to have to be a detective and try to figure it out. But it's usually a list of things. They're either in pain, which you can see with the grimace. They're hungry, thirsty, lonely. They need toileting. There's a couple of other ones I don't remember what they are. But yeah. So there's a list of things that you could go down.
Wow. Okay. You're giving amazing information on this. Okay. What are the signs that caring for a person at home is no longer safe, no matter how much they want to keep them there?
a lot of falls is number one. Especially if you're continuing to allow that person to live alone and there are a lot of falls and there's nobody that can move into that home or that you can move into the home with you, then that's probably a sign that it's time to start looking for nursing homes. But what I would do is a lot of people will say, well, I'm going to take mama and I'm going to move her in with me. They don't understand the gravity and the weight and all that comes with caring for that person at home, especially if that person is one that has a lot of symptoms of the disease. Even if you decide to bring that person into the home, I would be proactive to start looking for nursing homes in case it gets to the point where even if you decide to bring somebody in the home, you don't know that something is not going to happen to you where you're unable to care for that person and you need a nursing home. So start looking, especially if the person is still physically fit and can move around and may elope. There are nursing homes that won't take a person that has a dementia diagnosis because it's a liability because they may walk out of the building. You're looking for a nursing home with a locked unit, which is also very hard to come by because locked units don't usually have locked units. Locked unit means you can come into the nursing home and there's the general population, and you go into another section that you have to punch a code to get in. And once that person is in, they cannot get out. They live within the confines of this locked unit. It's usually 20, 25 beds, something like that, male and female. And
They kind of sound like a prison setup. General population locked.
and I shouldn't use general population. Really should not use that term.
I put that related to you.
No.
That's the image that came to my mind.
But it is kind of like that because in our organization where I work, we have a secured unit.
Okay.
That's the word. Secured unit where once they go back there, the aides take care of them back there. But if they exit sick, they can't get out for their own safety. You have to punch code. And so nursing homes don't want to put somebody in what is not a secure unit and run the risk of them getting out and getting hurt and then, lawsuit, liability, all of that. So usually with the dementia diagnosis, you're going to want to look for a locked unit unless the person is wheelchair bound or bed bound and they cannot elope. Then they are more apt to take them in the unsecured part of the facility.
That just adds another layer of complication because especially we talked about earlier about particularly Black and brown communities wanting to keep that person at home despite the stress that they're dealing with. So that person is falling all the time and they're not able to handle that person's vision changes and their aggressions and all those things. And then you have to find a facility that can take their insurance or be able to pay out of pocket that has this now level of security. These are things you wouldn't even think of. And I was definitely not aware of this. So that's an extra layer. So the making sure they have a proper healthcare team, making sure they get a consultation with someone like you, a professional that can give them the signs and that can actually plan for these things if that's something that's occurring in their family. Do you agree with that statement?
And then there's the caregiver or care partner stress. Sometimes it's not the falls. It's just that I cannot mentally handle what is happening with my parent in my home. I can't do it. Then you have a guilt factor.
Yeah, major.
There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to handle it, but I just can't handle it. So I need to be the child of this parent. So I'm gonna have to put them in a nursing home so I can have that relationship back. There's no resentment there. And that's a big guilt for especially African Americans that want to keep their families at home. So that's a big guilt factor too. And I deal with that a lot in the support group where somebody has had to put their family member in a nursing home. And it's a whole nother dynamic when it's your spouse. That's a whole nother issue.
Well,
When it's your spouse.
yeah,
I have a lot of spouses in my support group right now.
wherever now. Okay. Well, if someone is overwhelmed and only can remember three things from our conversation, what three would you want them to keep?
Be honest with yourself.
Mm.
You're the main caregiver. If you got other family members that are adding to the stress, remember that you are the main caregiver. There are some things you can do: power of attorney, healthcare, dual power of attorney, guardianship. Those are things that you can do where you can say, look, if y'all are not going to help me, I'm going to do this on my own. This is what I got to do. Second thing, just know that it's not going to be easy. Just resolve yourself. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be times when you want to give up. You don't have to. And the third most important thing to me is forgive yourself when you make a mistake. This is uncharted territory. Everything is different from minute to minute, second to second. So when you think you should have went left, but you went right, or vice versa, just forgive yourself, wash it through, and start again, because every day is going to be different. No day is going to be the same. And when you wake up that morning, you don't know what you're going to get.
Wow. Okay. Well, before we transition to get something to eat to stimulate our brains, right? This is what we always ask every guest. If you could help every listener just make one more informed choice this week, what would it be?
Find some support for the area that you are concerned about. Go find somebody that can help you through the process of whatever it is that you need. So if that person needs better sleep, figure out how to get the better sleep. Figure out what's out there, what support systems, what information is out there, and try it all.
That's
What might work for you might not work for me.
right.
So
Excellent. Well, you have been a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure we're going to get lots of comments. Probably have to come back for part two.
come back.
Okay. This was excellent. Excellent information. I'm so glad for your expertise and knowledge and friendship.
Yes, man.
Love you very much.
I know too, and thank you for having me. I was very excited all day.
Well, we're going to go ahead and transition to our cooking segment now.
Okay.
All right, so we're back for our cooking segment, but before we actually start our cooking segment, and we're gonna do a dish that's related to brain health, we're gonna start with normally it's our herbal spotlight, but today I'm doing a nutrient spotlight. I'm not gonna show the particular brand I'm using because y'all haven't sponsored me, but it's creatine. Okay, creatine. Most people think of it as something that people in the gym use to bulk up. Yes, you can do it, but this is the most studied nutrient in the world. And it is actually really good for brain health because what creatine does, creatine is a nutrient that's already in our bodies that our body produces naturally. It's also in certain foods, in the more on the animal-based side, but your body creates creatine, and creatine is stored in your brain and in your muscles within the body. And what it acts like, it's like a generator. So when your brain is kind of low on energy, if you're having some kind of cognitive stress, the ATP, the mitochondria, which is like the energy of the body, this is like when it's running low, the creatine is like, oh, let me turn the generator on and boost things up. So I thought this is for based on our episode that this would be a very applicable topic or applicable nutrient to use instead of an herb. Now there are other herbs like gotu-kola. There's so many certain mushrooms that you can use to support brain health. And our dish today will actually amplify that. But creatine is just a white powder. It's odorless. It's tasteless. So it's easy to insert this in some water, into a smoothie, any kind of post recovery. And you only need this one little level scoop, and it's about 3 to 5 grams. So more than that, if you're in the gym, consult your healthcare professional. If you have any kind of kidney disease or anything like that, then you want to consult your healthcare professional because you can, if you take it in excess, retain fluids with it. But it is so good. So if you have a care partner, a caregiver that's stressed out, this can help take off that mental load if it's something they take on a regular basis. Like I said, it's very safe, very well studied, and you only need that little, teaspoon a day, and it builds up and it stores in your brain. So I thought that was a really good thing to use for people to know about, because most people only think about it for people who are trying to bulk up. And they say way more than the little scoop that I'm talking about.
I'm sure we have that at home.
I'm very sure you do. Okay, so with that, we're gonna do what I'm calling brain tacos. So we have brain-friendly foods here, and we're gonna make our meat with walnuts. And most things in nature look like the things that it helps, and walnuts look like brains.
They sure do.
Yeah, they look like brains.
They sure do. Never noticed that.
It's for brain health. They're rich in the precursor of omega-3 fatty acids, the ALA version. It's a great source of protein. It's a protein source for this dish, along with the mushrooms. And there's a lot of medicinal properties in mushrooms for brain health. And so you can use whatever mushrooms you like. So I just picked these up from the grocery store. I typically do oyster, but they had these hen of the woods and the king trumpet. So I'll say, hey, we'll just throw them all in there and let them have a party. So I'm going to start off first by mixing up the meat. So what I did was I went ahead and soaked these walnuts. And if you happen to want to make these and you forget to soak your nuts or seeds, it's okay. You can give them a quick boil for about 10 minutes, and all is not lost. It won't be,
Why do you soak them?
Soak them makes the nutrients more bioavailable to the body. And then also when you soak them, when we're gonna cook these a little bit later, you don't want to. It's supposed to be more of a meat-like texture. You don't want to just be chewing on minced up nuts.
Right.
Okay. So it's twofold. Okay. So I'm gonna just go ahead and give this a quick pulse, and then I'll add the mushrooms into it. So just give it one quick sec. All right. Now I'm going to add in our mushrooms.
You want to add these too?
Yep. Might as well.
I won't touch them.
Throw them all in there. Yep, perfect. So here we have the hen of the woods, or the maitake. We have some cremini and king trumpet. King oyster. I might as well get all that. This also adds some umami. So when you're not eating animals, you want to add, we talked about that in the last episode about glutamates and things like that. So those are things we want to make sure we have when we're doing meat replacements. So now I'm going to post this together. Get a little stir, help it out.
It looks like grained meat.
It does have that kind of look to it. But this is your quote unquote meat. All right. This is another great recipe to do for a caregiver, because this meal is done in about 20 minutes. So when you don't have a lot of time and someone's hungry and they need something that's nutrient dense and filling, and something still familiar like a taco like we're doing today, it's something that can work for someone that might be suffering. All right. And we're done. And I'm actually going to go ahead and toss in these sun-dried tomatoes. We're just going to add more glutamates.
That's my favorite.
You can also use tomato paste instead, just to break them down a little bit. All right. So that's it. Put this over here and sink real quick. Turn up the heat. All right. Now, Vernell is an excellent chef in her home, so I know that you can easily replicate this or even enhance it. This is just a baseline recipe.
So you don't put any oil in the pan of any kind?
You can, but I like to be intentional about using oil. And since I'm not blooming any spices, and because walnuts are already very a fat source for the recipe, is not needed. It's just 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories.
Ooh.
So that can add up very quickly. So you always just want to be, I'm not oil free. I'm just intentional about it. So I'm going to go ahead and add in this red onion. Let those all marry together. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the garlic as well. Recipe will be in the show notes below. Now I'm going to add in some seasoning. Now you can do a pack of taco seasoning if you want to do it like that. But I have here just have some chili powder, some cumin, a little bit of smoked paprika, and some oregano, and a little bit of a bouillon cube. Let's mix all that together. So I'm going to give this a great toss, and then I'll let this kind of chill out for about 5 to 7 minutes in the pan, and that's it. Now, if you want it to be darker for it to look like meat, which is not something I'm ever really going for, you can add something like a gravy master or a gravy bouquet to it to make it darker. If that's something that, you feel like you need to do. Oh, crap.
Looks good.
As you can see there's oil in the pans coming out from the nuts. And then the mushrooms have a lot of water in them as well. So that's starting to come together. So I'm going to put the lid on, let that chill. Man, I'm not being very graceful with this at all.
Uh-uh.
That's too hot.
Get that lid.
And we're going to let that do its thing for a few minutes. And then while that's doing that thing, we're going to ask you a few questions, some rapid fire questions that, let the audience get to know Vernell a little bit better. So where the first thing that comes to your mind? Okay, no pressure.
All right.
No pressure. All right. What is one early sign of dementia that families underestimate or dismiss the most?
The withdrawal.
Withdrawal.
Meaning they withdraw from social activities. So they might think, oh, it's the weather or mom's arthritis or she's just not, wanting to be around people. But it's usually because the person is covering and they don't want people to know that they're having as much difficulty as they're really having. So they will come up with an excuse as to why they don't want to go to the functions that they normally used to would go to.
Okay. Pausing our rapid fire question, I forgot one ingredient because I'm trying to make this as nutrient packed as possible. You want to add some greens to it for your minerals and everything. So normally I would use like a kale of some sort. I didn't have it, so I'm using some organic collard greens. And I'm gonna because collard greens are a lot more hearty. It smells good, right?
Yes, it does.
A lot more hearty. I'm gonna let those go ahead and stew in with the nut mixture and have that all ready to go together. Yeah, that's kind of smelling good and looking good.
Kinda.
Give this a quick stir and we'll let that go ahead and marinate. After we go through rapid fire questions and I'll adjust for seasoning. Can't handle bland tacos now. That ain't gonna work.
No, that wouldn't be good.
That would not be good. Okay. And we still got plenty of fluid in there. So that's good. All right. Back with the lid. Back to the rapid fire. All right. What is one thing you wish every primary care doctor would do differently with patients who show early memory changes?
Listen. Listen to the person with the memory changes and listen to the caregiver. They really do know. Instead of coming in thinking that the professional knows more than what is going on, that professional is not in that home.
Right.
So if you would just take the time to listen. Just listen. Goes a long way.
I know you deal with that a lot. What is the most damaging myth about dementia that you run into over and over and over again?
That is normal aging. The symptoms that you see going on, oh, it's just normal. It's not normal. And a lot of times, families, like we talked about in the first segment, they are not visiting their family members often, and so they just calculate it up. That's just grandma or mama getting old, and it's not the case, and they miss the early warning signs.
Okay. If a caregiver or care partner can change only one habit this month to protect their own brain, what would you want it to be?
Find one thing in their diet that they could change. Just start with that one thing. If it's, I go to McDonald's 5 times in a week, go 3 times in a week. Start with something that you can manage. Change one thing, and then once that thing is changed, then change something else.
And I would say if you're going to use that example, change it with one healthy thing.
Replace it with
Don't
a
go to
healthy
Burger King instead of going to McDonald's. Let's change it with a home cooked meal.
Right. At least one home cooked meal. That's how you can change it.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay. What is a phrase or question that instantly tells you that a family member is already burned out?
Let me try to just pick one.
Oh, or say what you got to say.
Mama's just being manipulative. She can remember.
Really?
Really. And I have to explain that, yes, mama is being manipulative because when it starts to get to the frontal lobe, they don't have the ability to say, I shouldn't say this, or I shouldn't do this to get what I want. They just do whatever they need to do to get whatever it is they feel like they need. And so mom's just being manipulative, and that's just getting on my nerves. So I know there's some back and forth going on in the family. So that's just probably the number one thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's crazy. Okay. Um, what is one medical red flag that means stop waiting and get an evaluation now?
Medical red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it doesn't happen as often, but it does happen when the person is allowed to continue to drive when they shouldn't be driving. That is a
Wow.
red flag when they have accidents. I've known family members to allow that person to have accident upon accident upon accident, and they don't want to take away the keys because they don't want to have that conversation. And it's not that the person can't actually physically drive. It's just that we see a yellow light and we say, we're going to go a little faster to get through the light. Well, this person is seeing the yellow light and it could turn red and they're still processing in their brain the yellow light. And so they end up going through the red light. So the person may be able to physically do it, but their processing time is slowed down. So,
Okay.
big red flag.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know. Okay. What is something you want families of color in particular to know about dementia risk and care?
Again, it goes back to it's not normal aging. It's not something that would happen to somebody just getting older, and to get that early diagnosis because it's very key. And the other thing that we don't do is we don't get into a lot of these clinical trials for a lot of obvious reasons. The Black community has a lot of mistrust of physicians and the healthcare industry, and so we won't go get in these clinical trials without the understanding that the drugs that they are developing are for white males.
Right.
They are not for people of color. I looked at one study. It was a great study, but it had 3,200 white participants and 760 minority participants.
Say those numbers again.
It had 3,200 white participants
3,200.
and 700, I think it was 760 minority African American participants in the clinical trial, in the study. So already the numbers are disproportionate for us. So there's no way to really tell how these drugs that they are developing, these new FDA drugs, are actually going to affect us and work on us. Ooh, that
Wow.
smells good.
It tastes good too. I did a cheat test glove. Okay. In your experience, what helps most when a loved one refuses to see that anything is wrong?
Usually there's more than one person in the family. If I'm the favorite, I would send me in to talk to my mom. Don't send the person that, and it could be the caregiver or care partner. That might not be the appropriate person in the family to have that conversation. And you may have to have that conversation more than once. More than likely, you're going to have that conversation more than once.
Wow.
So find the favorite in the family, get rid of your little whatever you have about this other person being the favorite, and send that person in to have that conversation and say, Mom, I'm just concerned about you. Why don't we go to the doctor?
That's difficult. That is difficult.
Thomas can come and tell me he sees something wrong. Zakai better not come and tell me nothing. He gonna have a problem.
What about Lena or Bushes?
Lena and Bushes can go, but Zakai's gonna say, Zakai's gonna act like me. That's why it's not gonna work.
She has 5 beautiful children, y'all, who I adore and love. And so she's saying one of them, the one that acts most like her,
cannot come and talk to me about my dementia. It's not gonna happen.
That's funny. Zakai, if you're watching,
I said that so you would be wacky.
she's been put on notice. Okay. What is the one boundary you want every caregiver listening to practice saying out loud?
I forgive myself.
Ooh.
I forgive myself. I forgive myself of these thoughts that I don't want to do this anymore. I forgive myself for the thought of I didn't do it right again. I forgive myself. Why can't I have my mom back or my dad back or my husband or wife back? So just forgive yourself, because there is going to be a lot of mistakes you're going to make, a lot of things you wish you could have done better, and just forgive yourself. There's no plate. It's just like being a mother. There's no handbook for this.
Right.
Not at all. So you're going to learn on the fly. So forgive yourself.
And the last question. When you think about hope in the context of dementia, what does real grounded hope look like to you?
Well, I have a few examples, not personally, but I have seen families turn around and have a good relationship with the person suffering with the disease. And I don't mean like one-on-one relationship, but just how they move with the disease. They're like, okay, Mom, you don't want to do this? We don't have to do this. And they make a switch. So being able to move with the disease and incorporate all those other things that I talked about, forgiving yourself, that to me is a successful partnership as you move forward with this debilitating disease.
Well, Vernell, you have been an incredible guest. I'm grateful for you being on here today. And before we round things out, I'd like to feed you.
I like being fed.
Our last episode, I did some raw tacos, and I would normally just make the taco shells because a lot of the taco shells have so much crap in them. But in your frozen section, there's this particular company, y'all can sponsor me, that has very, very clean ingredients. And this particular one's made out of almond flour. They have one made out of all different types of grain-free clean ingredient things. So that is an option. So that's what we're going with today. So you get all these healthy fats and protein from the walnuts and the mushrooms. The mushrooms are also providing fiber, as well as the nuts as well. We have our collard greens in there and onions for a non-starchy veg. And then we're also going to add some lettuce. I'm assuming you want some lettuce.
I want it all.
You want it all? And this is romaine. I'm calling it lettuce, but I just chopped up some romaine. Would you like some salsa?
Yes.
I just made it mild. So just a little bit of...
You made it yourself?
Mhm.
Okay. That was a dumb question. I should have known you was going to make it yourself.
And then a little bit of cilantro. The full works. All right. Now you're going... This took 5-10 minutes. So my brain's always something to eat over. Okay, here's a napkin for you. So, Vernell, you give us your honest opinion about these brain tacos, these walnut mushroom tacos.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
That's delicious.
That's not meat.
Oh, this is really good. And it's homemade salsa?
The sauce is easy. That's easy. Well, all of this is easy,
It almost tastes like it has cheese in it.
but it doesn't. You know it does. Look, y'all saw me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is really good.
But this is very satisfying. This can hold in your fridge for about 4 to 5 days. You can also freeze it. And then you could do so many other things with this filling. Like you can use this like if you were making lasagna and this could be your meat. This you can use it as your spaghetti in your spaghetti sauce if you want to do a quick pasta for a pasta dish. You can put this meat on top of a salad, which I love to do.
Mmm.
It's so versatile. So versatile. So and it's easy. And it's super healthy. So we didn't add any oil. We didn't add anything to it. Just some onions and garlic, some mushrooms, some walnuts, some collard greens. It's a full meal. You have your healthy fats, you have your good carbs, you have your protein, and then you've got all your micronutrients. You got lots of iron, you have the omega-3s, you have fiber.
I'm gonna keep eating.
Keep eating. Would you like another? And get to take it home if you like. If she didn't like it all, it would show all over her face. There's no poker face with Vernell. I'm glad you like it.
It's really good.
And it's easy. So for the caregiver, this is something you can put together very quickly. Like I said, it meal preps very well, stores in the fridge or the freezer, and you can put it in a multitude of applications. And it's doubtful if a person can't think about a plant-based meal. This is something you can do because it still feels satisfying, and it's still very filling, very nutrient dense.
Can you freeze these?
Yeah, those you get these in the freezer section.
Oh, okay.
So especially because maybe almond flowers and it's fat, it could go rancid if it was set out because there's no preservatives in it. So you just
This is really good.
what do you taste? I forgot my normal question. So what are you tasting and what do you like about it?
Well, I know the nuts are in there. They don't taste like nuts, but I know they're nuts. But it actually tastes like meat, and it tastes like cheese is in there. I'm like, I can have the taste of cheese and not have to eat the dairy. Oh, I'm down. And the onions, I really need to know how to make the salsa.
I have the recipe on my website, but it's a pineapple sauce on my website. But yeah.
And I'm making myself learn how to like cilantro, but this is really good. It doesn't taste like it used to taste. It's really good.
I didn't know you weren't a cilantro fan.
Mm-mm.
I probably should have asked it before.
No, but I know watching you that cilantro's a blood cleaner. No,
The heavy metal, it gets rid of heavy metals out the body.
you said I should be eating it every day. So
Because a lot of dementia is associated with heavy metals, like aluminum and stuff in the brain, and those pathways are really really small in the brain, so it gets clogged up, and that's another form of another way people can suffer with dementia. So cilantro juice, lots of cilantro all the time.
it's got a lot of texture to it. There's crunch to it. It's just really good.
Have you ever had a?
Mm-mm. Not at all.
Could you see yourself making this?
Oh yeah, definitely. John would be very happy with me.
Oh, her husband, who we adore, who's a professional bodybuilder, dancer extraordinaire, retired Marine, who's fully plant-based, he would appreciate it.
I'm surprised him.
He would love that.
He would love that. Well, anything else you have to say about this dish?
Nothing other than it's absolutely delicious.
It
And
wasn't very much.
it was in my repertoire and it's quick, so
It's everything you would normally buy at a grocery store.
it's very quick, so it takes down the stress level because sometimes you only have 5 or 10 minutes when you're dealing with somebody with dementia.
Yeah.
So this is a perfect meal to make.
I love it.
Try not to.
It's okay. We're going to go ahead and conclude the episode. Thank you so much, Vernell. You really opened up. I learned a lot from this episode, so I know you're going to help me, viewers and listeners at home. So I'm grateful for your attention. I'm sure there'll be a part 2. And for those of you at home and listening, thank you so much. Heal naturally, live vibrantly.